Alright, so this is the first time I'm really gonna talk about politics. I'm going to talk about politics from the metaphysical perspective of monism, or collective consciousness. A lot of people don't want to talk about politics because it's kind of dangerous these days. There's a lot of dumb, crazy people out there that want to ruin your life because of what your beliefs are, or what they imagine your beliefs to be. I'm not going to say what my personal beliefs are, because I don't affiliate with any organization at all. I don't identify with any political group. I do have strong opinions on certain things, and but none of these groups have really shown that them having power will result in success. You have a kind of like a moderate middle ground establishment made up of neoliberals and neoconservatives, and they're really good at staying in power. And they kind of have like their views are a little bit more to the left, but maybe center left, a little bit more internationalist, including the Republicans. They're good at staying in power, but it appears as though the situation has become a little bit chaotic. As an analogy, you can lie to someone once and kind of gain some sort of power over them for the moment, but lie after lie after lie creates this environment where you don't really have control over it. They, using certain forces, are staying in power, but those forces they're using, they are not in control of. So things are kind of beginning to unravel a little bit, and you have the left wing extremists, and you have the right wing extremists, people that have gone further left and further right in search of solutions to the problems in society. So the reason for the divide is that people, well, the reason for different organizations or groups is that people disagree on the strategy, solution, or how to get to the solution. And I'm going to talk about the groups within the right wing, within the nationalist right wing. There's a few groups. One of them, they're more authoritarian. They want something similar to like National Socialism. And then there's the other side of it, and they are referred to as libertarians. Or you could see them as kind of like an anarcho-capitalist kind of side. You know what I'm talking about. It's those two sides. And there's been a big discussion on the nationalist right wing, which of the two are better, or which strategy would result in a successful solution to the problems. And so, libertarians promoting libertarianism at this rate, that's not the solution, and that won't fix anything. But on the other hand, blaming libertarians or libertarianism is also just as bad of a strategy. One thing that is being said a lot, especially lately, is that libertarianism led to what we have now. Okay, let me just analyze that claim real quick. So let's say, let's look at the state of Germany, the status of Germany today. If I asked, well, what led to that? What led to Germany being how it is today? Was it Hitler and Nazi Germany? Did Hitler and Nazi Germany lead Germany to where it is today? Not really. No, that's kind of a ludicrous way to look at it. And the reason is because, well, it's been freaking 70, 80 years, and a lot of things have happened since then. A lot of different groups have been in power. So it's pretty ludicrous. But what's more ludicrous than that statement is to say that libertarianism has led to the problems we have today in this country. I mean, how long has it been since the spirit of things, the establishment has been libertarian? How long has it been since this country was libertarian? Over 200 years. And libertarians today see it as like this. They see that the country has become less and less libertarian over time, and things have been messed up more and more over time. And to say that these problems or degeneracy or whatever is due to liberty or freedom, or like a lack of control, government control, is absolutely delusional. No, a lot of these problems, the only reason they exist is because they are enforced by the government. A lot of these problems come about from the government. Of course, if you went down the road of complete anarchy, then you'd replace those problems with other problems. So that's maybe not a good idea. No, it's we're and then so people blame capitalism for things. Well, those people who say that don't know what capitalism is. It's really, we're not capitalist. We're the opposite of capitalist. We're very far from capitalist. And that's, libertarians see that and they say, well, something different. Capitalism would be good. Not real capitalism. It's really not. When people say, my capitalism is the problem, what they really mean is that corruption in the government is a problem. Corruption And they're actually referring to this relationship between the government and big private corporations. And a lot of people, when they hear big private corporations, they automatically think, oh, capitalism. uh, um, there's a relationship between them. People that are more on the National Socialist side see it as the big private corporations control the government. And I don't think it's that simple. I think that they're intertwined. I don't think one controls the other per se. Um, it's really not that simple. And even if it was that simple, then would the solution be, oh, well, all we need to do is give more power to the government? If anything is a delusional fantasy, it's that. Okay? People are talking about how libertarianism is a delusional fantasy. Well, what a delusional fantasy is that the big private corporations are the ones that control the government, and all we need to do to fix it is give the government more power. Doesn't make sense. And then the response that I would get from that is that people would say, oh, well, don't give power to the government, the current government, the bad government. Give power to a good government. Starting to sound like those deep state Q guys. Yeah, the good side of the government, they're gonna take out the bad side of the government. Yeah. That's so funny. Now, who's really prissy? The really prissy people out there are the people who the first solution they think of is let the government handle it. Those are the prissy people out there. Like, oh, my neighbor, their lawn isn't green enough, so I'm going to call the cops on them. Really, really prissy. Really prissy people. They annoy the heck out of me. Frick. They annoy me. And the reason they're prissy is because, the grass not being green enough is really not a big deal. It's a minor inconvenience. And, they can't be bothered because it's a minor inconvenience. They can't be bothered to do anything about it themselves. Basically, they're prissy because they want to simply force people to do things that they would never do themselves. And really, that's the big complaint from libertarians, is that, well, a lot of this stuff is a minor inconvenience. And if you really want something done, do it yourself. And that's another reason, a lot of this weird stuff that's going on in society is actually enforced by the government, because you can't be a vigilante or you'll get in trouble. You can't deal with it yourself. You must have the government do things for you. So we're very, very far away from libertarianism, or it's it's an authoritarian. I mean, things aren't like that bad. We're not all starving or dying yet. But it's pretty much authoritarian, and And another thing is, if you want to persuade libertarians, the vast amount of libertarians in this country who don't want to give the government or any kind of government more power, you actually have to convince them. You can't just say, "Oh, well, they're dumb." And no, it's one way to arrive at a solution that will actually work is to um, have everyone come to agreement together. There must be agreement within the collective will. Um, Also, a spiritual reason that government power isn't probably the best solution is when you give a small group of people a lot of power to make decisions for everyone else. Centralization. It's that might work in the short term, but in the long term, uh, the small group of people, what they want is going to diverge from the collective. And something like libertarianism, although uh, decentralized, it allows for more cohesion, um, social cohesion. Um, real libertarians in this country are nationalists and religious. Um, it's only within the past few years that the actual Libertarian Party kind of pandered to internationalists. And libertarianism isn't about fundamentally stuff like open borders. It's about nationalism. It is. People are mistaken about the really what the spirit of libertarianism is. They think that it's my body, my rules, lawlessness, immoral, like I can do what I want kind of attitude. That's what it is today, but the authentic spirit of libertarianism is about leading by example instead of, calling the cops on your neighbor because their grass is not green enough. So that kind of leads me to the spiritual aspect of it again. You know, it's you can't really enforce. You can enforce nationalism with government power, but the purpose for nationalism is social cohesion and spiritual cohesion. And that is just not something you can really enforce. Not really. Social or spiritual cohesion, the way I see it, it's dependent upon the individual level. It starts at the individual level. And if your whole culture are all the individuals are liars and hypocrites and prissy people, then it doesn't matter if you're going to enforce nationalism. It doesn't matter because you're not going to be successful. Really, a really truly successful social cohesion would require people to be highly educated in spirituality, almost to like Well, you need a lot of ascetic people, and that's not a big thing in Christianity. Um, you would basically, what I'm saying is that for libertarianism to work, um, you would need a strong religion that everyone uh, follows. A strong religion, not like the religion like Christianity in America today. That's a weak religion, and the reason it's weak is because it's more like you go to church and it's like a social gathering. You don't really, you're not really taught the fundamentals. You're not taught any philosophy or really the philosophy or anything like that. Um, it's just a social identity. It's a badge that you can use to virtue signal. And the lack of a strong religion um, is going to make it so that libertarianism can never work. And that's why libertarianism today is a fantasy, is because of the lack of a you know I'm saying it doesn't have to be government. It shouldn't be government. The glue, the social glue, should not be government. It should be something like religion, a strong religion that is strong at the foundation, amongst individual people. Another part of that is that's where you start talking about demographics. Demographics is a big thing right now. Um, there's just so many forces working against libertarianism. It used to work. It did. It used to work. It used to be nationalist. It used to um, result in strong spiritual cohesion. But there have been attacks on this nation, spiritual attacks of all kinds, and there are there are so many possible ways to think of a solution for these problems, and to basically suddenly just hope that government saves you is kind of ridiculous and really prissy. um, Although you, you can't be an idealistic, you can't just go with your ideals. This isn't fairy tale time. This is time for pragmatism. And that's what that's what people say, but really it's the final question is really, in the past, what has worked before? That's really the question. What has worked before in the past? In the past, when there's been a problem kind of like this, what has worked? And to we need to answer that question definitively. Um, and Also, there are new variables. Um, this time is not exactly like any other time in the past. Um, God. So that's the question. What works? Be a pragmatist. Um, what works, prove what works. Can't be hung up on ideals. And, you know, if you listen to this, then I want you to comment. I want you to say where I've been wrong. And if I've been wrong, why? Why was I wrong? What did I say that was incorrect? Please comment. The only reason I make videos is so that people can comment. All right, well, that was the first episode having to do with monist politics. I'm going to continue talking about this in the future, but for right now, that's all I wanted to say.